Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this February the 16th, 2023. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Now, here's the thing, guys. This article right here. I'm not even going to say that first word because that's discriminatory against what's right now a minority group. But the homeless are going to grow in numbers so that they're not going to be a minority group very soon. They're doing things like, first off, what I hear coming through the grapevine is that they've got big plans for these carbon taxes and everything else and everything. They're planning on hitting homeowners up with, right now some homeowners, I mean, if a lot of homeowners have a mortgage, well, the Federal Reserve has been buying mortgage-backed securities. This means they're buying your mortgages. They have been buying mortgage-backed securities. They're not doing it now, but they'll start again pretty soon buying mortgage-backed securities. What they do is they bundle your mortgages up into a package deal, and they buy the whole thing as a lump package. It's called mortgage-backed securities. So they're buying your home, buying your mortgage. But that's not all. Say you own your own home, right? Well, they charge you taxes. They can raise those taxes incredibly high. But not only that, there's more. As they bring in these new zero emission laws and things like that, they can add certain things that you have to do to your house as a homeowner in order to fit in with the new things like outlawing gas stoves, things like, and then making it so you have to convert your home over. They're pushing for these things. They've already getting them in Europe, and they will be coming here, where you're going to have to make modifications to your home to meet energy requirements. They're probably going to have people that'll come in and inspect your home to make sure you meet these new requirements. Well, what's it going to cost? It's going to cost a lot of money. And it's going to push a lot of people out of their homes. This is, in fact, exactly what they want. And if you haven't got the money to pay, well, a lot of people are going to fit in this group because food costs are rising. And it's getting harder and harder. Wages are not keeping up with the rate of inflation. A lot of people are going to find this new stress on them to try to make ends meet. And then they're going to be hit as a homeowner with things like, hey, you know what? You've got to put in this or that. Maybe some new solar system, or maybe they have to re-insulate their home. And to meet these new requirements. And then income, and then tax on your home will go up too. Massively high. The whole thing comes down to people's wages, people's jobs are going to be losing their jobs. We're heading into a period right now where everything's getting ready to crash. Have you ever seen the game of Jenga? You know what happens at the conclusion of a game of Jenga. They pull out those little blocks, and after a while it gets more and more unstable, the tower does. Well, that's exactly what the Fed's doing right now. Each month they're taking over $90 billion worth out of liquidity out of the system. It's like pulling a block out of the Jenga game. The tower's already unstable. What we're going to have is going to look like the Great Depression. That's what's coming in our very near future. So it's going to create a whole lot of new homeless people. It's going to increase the ranks of the homeless people. So what's already happening? Well, we got a homeless encampment that are setting up inside the Chicago O'Hare Airport right now. Problem, reaction, solution. This is how the government's functioning to push us into a box. Or a cage, I should say. And so this is the problem, supposedly the problem right now, is the homeless are taking over Chicago O'Hare Airport. Vagrants now living next to the baggage belts. Here's some pictures, okay, of the people setting up home inside the airport. Well, they'd freeze outside. setting up home inside the airport, which, I mean, it's where they can stay warm and everything else. Here they are, and so what's the solution? What's the government's solution? Well, here we go. There's a solution. Chicago's Guaranteed Income Pilot Program to begin in April with 5,000 low-income families to get $500 per month for a year. So I'm going to give them money. Well, imagine, if you will, a future, not too distant in the future, where this problem spreads all the way across America because of a depression that the Federal Reserve is creating on purpose. So here comes the CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency, and all they got to do is give all of these homeless people a little card, a little plastic card, and they got a direct account to the Fed, and then they expand this, what's right now a pilot program, to the general public, to the general homeless people out there across America. So basically what's happening is what's already happened in California is going to start spreading all the way across America. What's already happening in California. So we're got the whole of America. A lot of people have moved out of California to try to escape this. Well, it's coming to a town or city near you, very near in the future, and the Fed is what's causing it. The Fed is creating a depression. Not unlike the Great Depression. But in the Great Depression, the money was tied to gold. Now they'll have a central bank digital currency pretty soon. This offers control. Control in the $500 a month. They'll raise it to $1,000 after a while, as the rate of inflation goes up. They'll raise this. They just can send it out in a central bank digital currency. But what's that going to do to the dollar? Because the dollar is going to be tied to this new central bank digital currency. It's going to be the dollar. So when you're spending it, you're going to be spending dollars. Well, it's going to be money chasing goods and services, money that comes from thin air to try to solve a problem that they created in the first place. Talk about hyperinflation. So things that are real are not going to be stuck to this ever-rising costs. Real things. People are going to be chasing these goods and services and also commodities as a way out of this. Listen, guys, need I say more? There's no other solution to this problem. And we're on the front side of this right now. I mean, this all hasn't really happened completely yet. We're on the front side of it right now. But it's going to offer them control. Control over your money. Knowing where you spend every dime. Knowing where you spend every penny. There'll be a date stamp on it. If you buy a piece of bubble gum, there'll be a date stamp on it. They can also control how long you have to spend this money. And they can cut you off of the program anytime they want to. And when you get the general masses on this, it's kind of like these are unproductive. The general masses become then unproductive. So what's going to happen when you get more and more of these homeless people, into the millions of them in the United States of America? Well, of course, they're going to set up homeless cities. So picture, if you will, a homeless city with 100,000 people in it. Well, of course, they're going to isolate it off. The government's not going to be able to move them any longer. So what are they going to do? They're going to put a fence around them. I mean, I'm just carrying it from one step to the other. Obviously, what's going to happen next in all of this. So the homeless encampment or homeless city or whatever in the heck you want to call it, eventually they'll put a fence around it, and they'll be sending all these people in these homeless cities whatever they have to in the UBI payment or whatever that's connected to these new central bank digital currencies. And they'll be living in there. Well, picture your homeless city, 100,000 people in it. I don't know what they'll name it. Maybe they'll call it Barter Town. Okay? So you got maybe 5,000 people a month moving into this new homeless city with behind a chain link fence. You know, the government will have a gate set up or something, and they'll let them in if they're on the UBI program or on the program where they send them money. And you know, the government will set up things in there like probably porta potties, big long row of porta potties, and they'll set up the government will set up a place for them to charge their phones, charging stations. It's probably the only electricity they'll have. And, you know, the government will make a few little accommodations for them, like, I don't know, some maybe huts or something. You know, some little buildings for them all to live in, because the government's going to have a problem here. A massive problem. Bigger than the Great Depression to deal with. And so you got this homeless city that stretches for miles because it's got over 100,000 people in it. Okay? 5,000 new people are moving in every month. Of the citizens of America, you know, are moving in. Maybe they'll have 100 of these encampments set up all the way across America. So you get 100,000 people in the homeless city. 5,000 new people are moving in every month. But the number inside the city never seems to go over 100,000. Why? Well, the conditions inside the camp. You know, because the porta potties that the government put in will be all trashed. So there won't be proper sanitation. A lot of people will be catching things like cholera, you know, dysentery. You'll have a lot of people with pneumonia. You'll have a lot of people with the flu. There'll be sickness all full of camp beds, living conditions, flies. Am I starting to paint a picture for you what this is going to turn into? And how do you keep out of these camps? You're going to have some way of paying to keep up with inflation. Something that'll keep up with inflation, because your dollars aren't going to, your savings aren't going to. So down the road, what we're looking at is a tremendous problem that they don't have an answer to solve. And this is just the beginning, tip of the iceberg, or the beginning of what's happening with this problem. Not to mention the crime rate. So even if a person, you know, owns their own home or everything else, you know, and you're happy with your own home, you're going to have so much crime because of this situation where people are trying to stay up and above board. They're trying to stay in their homes, so they got to figure out how to make all these payments keep going up higher and higher. You know, things like food and rent and mortgage payments and car payments and everything's coming at them. And then they find out from their job that, you know, about half of the people out in America couldn't cover $1,000 right now. Expense. Well, this is only going to get a lot worse. So more and more people are going to fall off because the wagon is shaking so hard they can't hang on. They're going to fall off and they're going to end up homeless. So this group right now that they call, well, you know, I mean, at the head of this, you know, this group that they call, I'm not even going to say it because it's discriminatory against what's going to be a large group in America, larger and larger all the time, and it's not people's fault. I mean, there was a time when you seen a homeless person, okay? You see a homeless person, and they were probably had issues, maybe mental health issues, or they had something that was causing them to be homeless. Maybe they had a health problem, or maybe they were on drugs or something, addictions, something. They had something that was causing them to be homeless, because typically in America you wouldn't be homeless unless something was causing you to be homeless. And there was a small core group of people that were homeless. But that's not going to be the case any longer as we move ahead into what the Fed's generating. People, normal people that haven't been homeless their home life, are going to find themselves on the street because of this enormous crash that they're going to create in the markets and then try to fix it. They're going to destroy our economy. And I don't believe any of these numbers about all the unemployment numbers and all this stuff. They're all fixing the numbers now. Because they want to make things look good. Well, they know if they keep digging deeper and they keep cutting and the Fed keeps hawkish, they know the whole thing's going to roll over. It's like a house of cards. This is what they want. They want this central bank. They want a reason to bring out this central bank digital currency. They want a reason to put everybody on UBI, which is a subsistence income. And it gives them ultimate control. They want the masses and groups of homeless that they can say, well, we don't know what to do with them all. Send them to their new homeless city. And basically, just like the war in Ukraine's a meat grinder, homeless cities will be meat grinders too. And I explained to you the reasons why. And I mean, this is the new America. This is the new America that our leaders are generating for us. And I'm going to say America, I mean all of America, North America. It's going to extend its grip, the tentacles from this depression. This is a worldwide depression that they're generating. Because the Fed is the monster. It's the octopus at the center of all of this that extends its tentacles out to the entire world. Well, you know, the BRICS nations, they say, no, we're not having this. They're trying to separate themselves from this, from the tentacles of this machine that was generated at Jekyll Island. It just sounds like something out of a monster movie. Jekyll Island. Jekyll and Hyde, you know. It sounds like something evil. Well, it was. It was an insidious plan to take down the whole world and turn into two classes of people. The ultra poor and the ultra rich. And this is the ultra rich plan to take all of us out and put us all into one, classify us all into one group as poor. So we end up in the homeless camp. You know, we end up going where they shuttle us off to. Well, you know how it is. If you become homeless, I mean, the police come along and they say, you got to leave here. Like, they're constantly moving them from one place to another. The police come along and they say, you can't stay here. They got to pack up their get and move it over there to the other side of town. Then they go over there on the other side of town. They say, well, you got to leave here. Then they move right back where they were again. Because they're a minority group. Well, soon they'll be a majority group. But are they ever going to get their act together and figure out what's really causing this whole problem to begin with? Because do not think you're immune. If you're out there listening to my show, myself included, I realize I'm not immune, and you're not immune, and nobody's immune to this. Because they can come in and they can just basically make it so it's impossible for you to keep your home. One thing or another. They'll figure it out. Anyway, I'm kind of ranting a little bit, but I'm mad about all this. I'm very upset that they're destroying America and they're destroying our lives slowly but surely. We're like the frog that is boiling in the water, and we don't even realize that they're actually doing all this to us. But I'm pointing it out to you guys, what they're doing and what they're up to. And it doesn't look pretty. Okay, silver price today. Now that I've got it off of my chest and I got a little rant out of the way, you know, I'm going to look at the markets and see what's happening. The silver's at $21.56. It's getting ready for an explosions to the upside. They're not going to be able to keep this suppressed for a whole lot longer. They're right now $21.56. I'm figuring that mining production costs, all in mining production costs, when you include things like you know, when they go out and they search and find new mines and stuff, when you include everything, all the expenses included in the mining production cost to bring it right to a coin that you can buy at the coin store, it's probably right around $20 right now. And so what's their profit margin? Very small. And they know not to take it below the cost of production, because then the miners will just quit, or to keep the silver for themselves, because a lot of silver, is a silver byproduct of mining of other metals, things like copper, tin, in the mines. So anyway, there is mines out there that are exclusively, they mine silver ore. But anyway, so 21.55 right now. Let's take a look at gold. Gold is at 18.34. It's down $2.20 on the day. Now, we've seen a little pop in the price of cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin has went up. It's at $24,790 right now, almost $25,000. And that's quite a little move to the upside. And Ethereum is following at 1705. That's the highest we've seen in a little while. It's taking the pop to the upside. Let's take a look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It's down 238 points at 33,889. I'll tell you what I'm expecting with this. I'm expecting 26 to 28,000 on the Dow. And that's when I'm expecting the Fed to move in. And, of course, they're going to try to keep it from going down there. But I don't think they're going to be able to. And I think it's coming pretty soon. We're going to see some massive drops in the stock market. And this is going to trigger the Fed to stop these programs of quantitative tightening and reverse direction. But the damage is done. It's too late. They will have destroyed the economy by that point. And the economy is not going to come back. What little bit of an economy they have left. See, the economy is still perking along to a certain degree. But they're going to destroy that, because they're going to keep going until they break it. And this is what they want to do. I've laid their plan out for you. Their plan is to make all of you poor. And I mean, if a guy thinks he's rich right now, say a guy owns a big business or whatever, and he thinks he's got it going on, he's got employees and everything else. Well, when all of this homelessness hits, I mean, he might have a group come in and break in and smash his business all to pieces, smash his equipment and everything else. Well, I say, well, insurance will pay for that. Well, what if it happens again? I mean, the first thing you know, I mean, it might happen over and over again. He might no sooner get back in business and then they come in and smash it again. Because what we're going to have is we're having looting and vandalism goes on, along with the increase in homelessness and the increase in drugs and the increase of everything that's bad that you can think of. Well, how can you make something good out of if you got all this bad going on? It's going to tear a lot of other people down too. The only ones that'll survive through this are the really big conglomerates that are run by the really rich people. Things like the Walmarts, the McDonald's. They're going to continue to make it through this because they're such big corporations that they're able to weather through all this. But I mean, the smaller guys, the smaller businesses, and I mean the middle of the ground. So what we're seeing is a separation or a tearing between the high class society and the poverty, and the divide is growing bigger and bigger between the two. Used to be we had a structured society, with many different layers of middle class. They're wiping out the middle class. They're getting rid of us. And they're only going to have two tiers of society. The lords and the serfs and the waifs. And, the serfs and the waifs are going to be the poor people, and the poor people are going to be ultra poor, and the rich are going to be ultra rich. This is what they're planning. What is it called? Feudalism or whatever. I mean, it's sick. Sick. I mean, I'm getting into it again, but let's look at the markets. Taking a look now at the S&P 500 at 4122. It's down 25 points on the day. This right now could be the beginning of the downturn in the markets. You know, I'm expecting it anyway. I'm watching for it. And so it might start a little bit slow when it starts. And you might not even notice it starting. And then you see these big downturns in the markets. And this is what I'm waiting for, what I'm expecting, because of what they're doing. You just can't keep pulling out the liquidity that pushed these markets up. You just can't keep pulling that liquidity out month after month after month and not expect it to fall back down again. You know, I mean, what do you expect? If you got a three-legged table and you tear one of the legs away, what do you expect's going to happen? Well, for a few seconds, it might stay upright because it hasn't realized gravity yet, and then it tips on its side and falls over. That's what we're going to have happen. Oil today, 78.71. It's down a little bit. Well, no, it's 12 cents up, it says, but overall, we're seeing well, during the COVID crisis, it was up to $122, and we've seen it's descended off and it's leveled off, you know, to a certain degree. Let's take a look now at bonds and rates. We're looking at rising yields today. The U.S. 10-year is starting to get up toward 4% again. It's at 3.82, and the U.S. 30-year is at 3.88, and then we're up 3 basis points on the 30-year, and we're up 1.5 basis points on the 10-year. And the U.S. dollar index is at 104.5, and it's rising today. Well, I forecast this homeless crisis a long time ago, and it hasn't really hit yet. A lot of people out there say, well, Glenn, you were right. You forecast there's going to be a homeless crisis. We haven't hit it yet. You haven't seen it yet. We're just in the first inning. This is just getting going. Because you're going to start adding a lot of normal people, what we call normal people, people that have jobs and things like that, are going to start finding themselves in the rank of the homeless. It's just getting underway. It's just started, guys. It's going to grow exponentially. It's going to double probably in the next year, the amount of homeless. And then it's going to double again the following year. It's exponential function. And meanwhile, in the next year or two, these rich people are going to get so much richer. Anyway, have a great day. Bye-bye, guys.